In the beginning, there was a void of nothingness, except there was one lone egg. This egg hatched and ended up being the being known as Arceus.
Able to summon massive ruts to attack and cover areas. A form that only appears to neutralize huge threats to the ecosystem itself as it fought against Lysander's fake Zygarde and Ultra Necrozma itself. It is specialized for battle, fighting at full power and completing its duty to protect the Pokemon ecosystem. Each of those wings being able to help.
What's up, guys? Oh, hope you're having a blessed day. I've got another video for you today, and this is once again from one of the best and biggest franchises of all time, and that being the Pokemon franchise. You know how much I love world building, and part of world building is history and lore. This video is to explore it in the most comprehensive timeline I have seen to date. It's my first look at it, but let's look at it together and see what our thoughts are. Let's get straight into it. This is the complete Legendary Pokemon timeline
We barely know anything about, to there being a literal Pokemon multiverse, and it seems that legendary Pokemon always seem to be at the center of this. So I wanted to go through every single legendary and mythical Pokemon that is relevant to the overall story and try to put it all together in the timeline, so we can finally figure out how all this mess is connected. So let's go all the way back to the beginning of the Pokemon universe and its initial creation. In the beginning, there was a void of nothingness, except there was one lone egg. This egg hatched and ended up being the being known as Arceus. Arceus is all-powerful, and it used its powers to create the universe along with three.
Is it Arceus or Arceus? I myself have always said Arceus, but do let me know. Do you guys say Arceus or Arceus?
Initial Pokemon: Dialga, the god of time, meant to govern it; Palkia, the god of space, meant to control it; and Giratina, the god of antimatter. These Pokemon were chilling for a while. They all looked quite different though than how they do today. Arceus only looks like this because it's a fraction of his true self, so that we are able to perceive him, while Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina all have original origin forms that are supposed to appear more closely to their divine purpose. That can only be activated when they're all holding their respective items. While the universe was being created, Arceus started getting weary of Giratina. This Pokemon is said to be very violent, lashing out and disrupting the balance of the universe, bringing distortion and chaos to everywhere it goes. So, as a divine punishment for this, Arceus decided to banish Giratina to the distortion world. This is an alternate dimension where space and time do not flow normally, and it's a realm where only Giratina has dominion over. After this, Arceus decided to create 3 more Pokemon: Uxie, Mesprit, and Azelf, the Pokemon that are meant to bring knowledge, emotion, and willpower to humanity. And with all these pieces in motion, this births the beginning of the Pokemon universe.
Make bills easier in your new home with a one utility bill package. Put all your bills into one easy monthly payment.
Is this too fast?
Universe and brings us towards the prehistoric era. Mew is a Pokemon that is said to have some sort of genetic resemblance to all Pokemon. It isn't very clear when this Pokemon arrived on the planet, but it's definitely around this era. Meanwhile, the Pokemon known as Kyogre is the creator of the ocean, while Groudon, its counterpart, emerged from magma and created landmass. These Pokemon are responsible for the early formation of the planet, and they both have primal forms respectively. These Pokemon clashed and fought a lot. One of the reasons for their constant fighting is because a meteor came and hit the Earth with a strange amount of power, and they were fighting over it since this meteor contained the power that would be responsible for Mega Evolution. Even though these Pokemon kept fighting, another Pokemon known as Rayquaza came down in its Mega form and defeated both Kyogre and Groudon, sealing away Kyogre in the ocean and Groudon deep within the land. Rayquaza is a
Rayquaza, I think, hands down, is the coldest Pokemon. Like, a green dragon? Come on. Yeah, he's definitely the coldest. But do let me know, what is the best Pokemon there is? Giratina, I think, not Giratina, Rayquaza, I think, truly is the best Pokemon with the most aura.
Legendary Pokemon from space, and it only needs to eat small meteors so it's able to Mega Evolve. Speaking of space, the other legendary Pokemon from there is Deoxys. It is said to have formed from a virus from space, and it is highly intelligent. Deoxys and Rayquaza have fought a few times, but nothing too concrete. Heading back to Earth, though, it was just a pile of landmass and water, so the Pokemon known as Regigigas emerged, and it started shaping the continents that we know today. Once the land and the sea was stabilized, Regigigas dragged each continent into place, and while he was doing this, he created 5 more Pokemon within his image: Regirock, Regice, Registeel, Regieleki, and Regidrago. All of these Pokemon are extremely powerful in their respective typing. All of these Pokemon were so powerful, in fact, that early ancient civilizations sealed them away because they feared their power. Down the line, another alien-like Pokemon came by meteor, and it is Eternatus. Its energy created Dynamax energy in the Galar region, and the 2 Pokemon, Zacian and Zamazenta, banded together and defeated Eternatus, sealing it away. During this time of the ancient history, Giratina wasn't done yet. He ends up teaming up with this trainer known as Volo, since Giratina still had resentment because Arceus banished him away a long time ago. This plan doesn't end up working because a trainer from the future ends up defeating them, and ever since then, there's been no more recorded attempts of Giratina trying to
That's the first time I've ever heard Giratina like directly trying to attack Arceus. I thought his beef was always with Palkia.
the balance of the
Was it
universe.
Dialga?
Moving more towards the
I always
modern
get
day,
confused.
a group of humans took a lot of interest in Mew, and they wanted to recreate this Pokemon in their own image, create a god among men. These scientists, a part of Team Rocket, were successful in creating one of the first man-made Pokemon, Mewtwo. The creation of Mewtwo was a success, but it was too successful, since Mewtwo became unstable and it was resentful towards its own creators for treating it like an experiment and not like a living being. So this Pokemon got angry and destroyed the lab that it was made in and wandered the earth to try to figure out its purpose for being made. The other legendary Pokemon in the Kanto region are the legendary birds, the first one being Articuno, being the guardian of ice and cold winters, and it normally resides in snowy mountains. Zapdos is the next one, and it embodies electricity, and Moltres is the fire one, representing flames and rebirth. These birds are meant to maintain the natural balance of elements, and whenever these Pokemon fight, it can cause some chaos throughout the Kanto region. So Lugia, the legendary Pokemon from the second generation, acts as more of a mediator, calming these birds back and restoring the balance. The counterpart to Lugia is Ho-Ho. This legendary Pokemon is one of
Lugia in that movie was in his bag. Imagine being that powerful. It takes 3-on-1 just to take you down. Like, come on. Lugia needs to get more respect in terms of strength, I personally feel.
first ones we've seen in the Pokemon anime, and it's said to be gifting people with eternal life. Ho-Ho is also responsible for managing its own trio of Pokemon, the legendary beasts. Within a well-known city in Johto called Ekritique City, there was a brass tower that burnt down randomly one day. Everybody had to evacuate, but unfortunately there were 3 Pokemon inside the tower that died in the fire. Everybody was really sad about this, and Ho-Ho came by and resurrected these 3 fallen Pokemon, repurposing them into the legendary beasts Raikou, Entei, and Suicune. Even though it seemed like a good thing these Pokemon got revived, the people now feared them.
And people say that those 3 Pokemon were like the OG evolutions, but I'll let somebody more wiser confirm or deny that.
They didn't trust these Pokemon, and they actually banished the 3 legendary beasts, and they ended up separating themselves from humanity. The last mythical Pokemon in the Johto region is Celebi, and this Pokemon is known as the time-traveling Pokemon, and its main purpose is to protect the forest and help plants flourish. And since this Pokemon can travel through time, it isn't bound to any time period and can go to any point in history. Speaking of early points in history, the legendary Pokemon Latios and Latias from the Hoenn region are known as the protectors of humanity. It is speculated that they first appeared around the time human civilization started to form, and these 2 Pokemon have great connections with human emotions and psychic abilities. The other mythical Pokemon introduced around this time is Jirachi. It is said to be the wish-granting Pokemon and awakens around every 1,000 years. It's not super clear when this Pokemon emerged on Earth, but it's a pretty rare sighting. And just to get it out of the way, Phione and Manaphy are 2 other mythical Pokemon that we don't have a ton of information on. We know Phione is supposed to be a Sea Guardian, and Manaphy, there's so much speculation on this Pokemon, I don't even know where to start, since they are the only mythical Pokemon that are able to breed and create Phione eggs. The next 2 Pokemon that are linked together by lore are Cresselia and Darkrai, and for some reason, Darkrai is a mythical Pokemon while Cresselia is a legendary, but they balance each other out, because Darkrai is said to lure people into endless nightmares, and he has control over a bunch of them, and Cresselia is able to bring good dreams out of people, representing hope and tranquility. This is basically like a light and dark dynamic where Cresselia soothes the nightmares that Darkrai creates. Within the Sinnoh region, Heatran is a Pokemon that is the guardian of magma and volcanic energy, and it normally resides near volcanoes and mountains. While Shaman is a mythical Pokemon that kind of stays around flowery fields, and it helps with natural growth. It also does have another form, its Sky form, where it's able to fly around with confidence. Moving on to the Unova region, the staple legendary Pokemon are Reshiram and Zekrom. Their story is pretty interesting. Long ago in the past, Reshiram and Zekrom were actually one dragon Pokemon, and there were 2 brothers that tried to rule over Unova, but they had 2 separate ideas about how to run the region. There ended up being some internal conflict, and this caused the dragon to split into the 2 ideals, being Reshiram and Zekrom. Each of these Pokemon sided with one of their brothers, and there was a major war in the Unova region. The leftover pieces of the original dragon are known as Kyurem, and Kyurem has the ability to fuse with either Zekrom or Reshiram to try to work towards being more like the original dragon they were a long time ago. The Unova region also has 2 sets of trios, being Thundurus, Tornadus, and Landorus.
I wonder if they'll ever do a series, like a movie where the original dragon is like temporarily revived. I don't know who he'll face at this point, but it would be interesting to see that in actual canon live.
all controlling the weather, and this region also has the Swords of Justice, kind of like the Three Musketeers, and their main goal is to protect Pokemon and humans from harm. Victini, Moletta, and Genesect were also mythical Pokemon introduced during this region, but they're not super important to the general Pokemon creation lore, but Victini is pretty cool since it's said to bring victory to trainers that befriend it. Within the Kalos region, their legendary Pokemon are super important to the overarching story. Xerneas is the Pokemon known as the Life Pokemon, and its main job is life creation and rebirth. There is a myth surrounding this Pokemon that after it spreads life, it turns into a tree and sleeps for thousands of years. And the counterpart to Xerneas is Yveltal, the destruction Pokemon.
It's quite interesting with the growth of Pokemon. I feel like a lot of these Pokemon start to like conflict with each other. Like this life Pokemon Xerneas is quite very similar to Ho-Oh in a way. And the Swords of Justice, basically the legendary dogs all over again, you know what I mean? They've become quite redundant, but I suppose it kind of does work because it's region based. So maybe you can say each one has its own territory, but I do feel like there was a lot of overlap in terms of growing, like making new Pokemon, but it is what it is. Nothing harm done.
Represent death, destruction, decay, and it absorbs life energy. It's even said that when it dies, it kills everything around it. These two Pokemon are meant to be the balance of life and death within the region, but Zygarde is the most important Pokemon within this trio. This Pokemon symbolizes balance and order and a bunch of ecology stuff, which I don't understand at all, but luckily I have someone that does understand it. So I had to hit up Krillic VA to try to figure out this entire mess with Zygarde.
Howdy there, I'm Krillic, and when Xerneas and Yveltal forget who's the real boss and have to be put down to bed, Zygarde appears. Zygarde is the embodiment of the ecosystem itself, the interactions between humans, Pokemon, and the environment and the balance of it. If any of those start to go out of whack, then specific Zygarde cores will begin calling for all the cells of Zygarde to meet up for the brawl. As they collect, they'll become 3 different forms. 10% form, the best dog, sent in case of emergencies, built for speed as it runs at 100 kilometers an hour. The 50% serpent form, becoming a ruthless and merciless monster able to summon massive ruts to attack and cover areas. A form that only appears to neutralize huge threats to the ecosystem itself as it fought against Lysander's fake Zygarde and Ultra Necrozma itself. It is specialized for battle, fighting at full power and completing its duty to protect the Pokemon ecosystem. Each of those wings being able to help it fly, create massive energy beams, and even its mouth at its center can let loose a power able to destroy everything. Once its job is done, Zygarde splits apart once more, turning invisible and hiding across the entire world until one day their power is needed again.
With all that being said, we're probably going to get a bunch of Zygarde news in Legend ZA, but moving on, the other mythical Pokemon from the Kalos region, which is worth noting, is Hoopa. This is a Pokemon that is said to have terrorized cities in ancient times, even dragging castles into his dimension-hopping rings. This Pokemon
probably one of the most underrated Pokemon, Hoopa. If everyone's not watched that movie, it's so good. It's one of the few movies where you have every single legendary Pokemon up into his region of Kalos all fighting together with naturally the omission of Zygarde, Zygarde, Yveltal. Well, to be fair, not everyone, but there's enough to call it. It's a true legendary Pokemon showdown. And I should definitely encourage everyone to check Hooper out. He's goated. Probably my top 5 favorite legendary Pokemon.
Also has a terrifying Unbound form and a super sick design, so this is a Pokemon that should be feared because it can even pull out legendaries from its own rings. In the 7th generation, we got introduced to the concept of Ultra Space. This is where the cycle of light and darkness reside in the Pokemon universe, and a Pokemon known as Cosmog was created in Ultra Space through cosmic energy. Cosmog is the only legendary Pokemon that is able to evolve, and it eventually turns into either Solgaleo or Lunala. Solgaleo is supposed to represent the sun, bringing life into all these different worlds, while Lunala is meant to represent death and rebirth, and this Pokemon absorbs moonlight to heal itself. Necrozma is also another Pokemon that is from the Ultra Space. It was originally the Guardian of Lights, but it ended up losing its lights, and now Solgaleo.
Life and creation, just like Yveltal and Xerneas again.
Lunala became the new Guardians. Necrozma is a pretty sad Pokemon because its default form, it's in a lot of pain since it's lost all its...
People say this Pokemon is like top 3 strongest outside the creation trio. Is that true? Let me know.
Light, and it needs to absorb some. If Necrozma is able to fuse with either Solgaleo or Lunala, it's able to transform into its original form. This design is completely awesome, and there are different reasons on why Necrozma lost its light, but they're a part of different continuities. Within the Alola region, though, they tried again to create God by making a legendary Pokemon known as Type Null and Salvari. This Pokemon was created to be the ultimate weapon against the Ultra Beast. It's a Chimera-like being. They were having trouble making it reach its full potential, and when it gets a lot of friendship, it's able to evolve into Salveri. There are also multiple type nulls even in the Galar region because the Aether Foundation's research ended up spreading towards there. The most recent addition to the legendary set was in the Paldea region with Koraidon and Miraidon. These Pokemon are meant to represent different time periods, with Koraidon meant to represent the ancient past, while Miraidon is meant to represent the distant future. These Pokemon were a good way to introduce Paradox Pokemon within the games, and they are easily some of the strongest Paradox Pokemon. Terapagos is also another Pokemon that got introduced during Paldea. It is said that there used to be a whole population of these Pokemon that lived millions of years ago, but they all ended up going extinct, except for one Terapagos that was able to crystallize its body, so it's able to survive. This Pokemon is also the source of Terrestrial energy, basically allowing any Pokemon to transform into one type. And this is kind of where we leave off with the story of legendary Pokemon. There are a few more that I did miss, like Zeraora, but I'm sure their lore will be expanded on in the new Pokemon game, just like Mega Evolution. And if you want to know its dark secret, click the video on your screen because I try to break it down in depth.
Very good video, I won't lie. I just love learning about Pokemon lore. Naturally, I would have liked him to speak more about the Pokemon War and N in Gen 5. Very, very potent in terms of the lore of Pokemon. That part of lore I do quite enjoy. But great video nonetheless. Especially the whole kind of the Xerneas stuff, the Xerneas and Yveltal stuff I find so fascinating, as well as the what's his name again? Zygarde stuff as well. Very, very interesting stuff. Zygarde Full Power is quite the interesting character, interesting Pokemon, just because of the concept of it being multiple cells and it coming together from like a cataclysmic event. It sounds pretty interesting. But I always find it weird though, these kind of characters like Pokemon, it's like they have one job to do, and then whatever it's actually time to do it, they're like being slow to act. It is a little bit funny, but it is what it is. But we'll leave that discussion for another day. I hope you enjoyed it. This has been more Pokemon content from me. If you have any other series like you want me to cover, do let me know in the comments below. I'm always interested in checking out different series. And let's see if we can make it a repeat thing we do. But that's been me from Blessed Reacts. And like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, ciao.